I do not know an investigative reporter who has done better, ever. When you can make a report about the corruption at the LA County Health Department that immediately stops the review to put us under the mask and under vaccine restrictions again, I thought that was fantastic. And then I met Jennifer at another CRA, West LA CRA function over in Santa Monica, West LA area. And when I found out about this, I said, oh my God, she's our savior. And she's not being recognized. What's up?
There's only one who's a savior. She just rescued us.
Yes, she was our rescuing savior.
She's our hero.
She is.
She's our hero.
And she's the most underplayed individual throughout our whole county. And now with other reports that have happened with the CDC and the reflection there, I have my own issues with the CDC and the media not reporting in April of 2020 that the virus is killed outside in less than 5 minutes. How many people knew that? Okay, you're exceptional.
Which is why we didn't comply.
Away. And they shut down our parks and the beaches. I violated their. I went out kiteboarding no matter what, and of course, that's the most ludicrous thing that could be. So that's an example of how we need individuals like Jennifer to stand up against this by reporting the truth. And she also reported something about a congresswoman named Katie Hill that brought her down. She's as corrupt as can be. She has other stories. So I just wanted to share with you my short story on how much I've been blown away with that, what she's done, and I really am glad she accepted coming to speak to us today. Jennifer?
Yay,
Oh, by the way, she has a presentation here. I guess it's all set
little.
up.
I
Thanks
try
for
not to be one of those PowerPoint nerds that has to rely on a PowerPoint, but I was not going to turn this down because I was able to come to literally the place of my birth, the hospital right here, whichever direction Torrance Memorial is.
Oh, right.
Father's Day 1972 came into this world right there. So I wanted to come back down here, and also another person that I report on frequently lives around the corner, a guy, Ted, that you guys might know.
Oh.
His wife, Betty.
Lion Ted.
I write on them frequently too. Ted Lou. Trust me, he knows who I am.
Loser.
That's
loser.
right. That's right. He knows who I am because his staff people reply to me on Twitter when I call him out on things like going to a Rams game without a mask in the middle of the pandemic, taking a cruise to the Bahamas during the middle of the pandemic while he had written a note to Pelosi that he couldn't go to Congress because of the ongoing public health emergency. He was taking a flight to New York to get on this luxury cruise to Bermuda, at Thanksgiving of 2020 with his elderly parents. I mean, wouldn't you think he would be a little concerned about their well-being in this global pandemic? So I wanted to share just a tiny bit with you about my background, and then go into what I think is the qualities of a good investigative journalist and some examples of some of the stories that I've had. And then just open it up to questions from you guys, because there's probably, like Scott said, there's probably some of my stories that you don't even realize I was the first one that broke, because they get picked up by other places. Like the other morning, for example, I love Tucker, but the story about the juror in North Carolina that got thrown in jail for not wearing a mask.
Oh.
Really?
I broke it nationally first, because that's the county that my son moved back to, where I raised him. To get away from our crazy mask things in North Carolina, in California, to raise his daughter there. And I actually worked with that judge when I was a court reporter over 20 years ago, and he was a criminal defense attorney. So that actually tells you a little bit about my background. I'm from Simi Valley originally. Born here, but raised in Simi Valley. went to Boston University, and then lived in North Carolina for 20 years, where I was a court stenographer. I reported on over 36 first-degree murder cases throughout the state and thousands of other criminal trials. What that taught me, how to present a case, what kind of evidence is competent and reliable. I didn't go to journalism school, but I know how to present evidence, and I know what good evidence is and what primary sources are. So after being there for 20 years, I was going through a divorce. My dad had a stroke at the same time, and he was out here in California, so I came back out here to help him after he was disabled. And the type of court reporting that I did, which if you're in the military court reporters use the steno mask that they dictate into. Well, because we're overregulated here in California, that method is not recognized here. So although I did that for over 20 years, was the state president of our professional association, I wasn't qualified to work here in California as a court reporter, so I had to find another line of work. I'd always liked writing. Had become friends with people through Twitter that were friends with Andrew Breitbart, and just really got bit with that bug of wanting to be a citizen journalist, and went from there. So fast forward to 2016, I'm working with Red State, and just kind of part-time doing that, and then it's gonna go forward now. Yeah. It's for some reason it's gonna just keep going through this, I think, but maybe not. So you saw that first one was the Katie Hill story. The first slide I showed was what everyone thinks the Katie Hill story is, which was the first piece that I had broadcast on it, which was that she had this 2-year relationship, a throuple relationship with one of her staffers. And I knew I'd made it when Vox put out a Vox-splainer on what a throuple was. I knew that I'd kind of made it in life. But the thing is, this was a multi-part story. So it started out, I was Katie Hill's constituent. I was looking into things, allegations that she had been misusing her position as the executive director of PATH, which is People Assisting the Homeless, and that she had hired her husband to be part of this contract they had with the Veterans Administration. Only he didn't work. They billed the hours to the contract, but he didn't work.
Whoa.
So I was looking into that, which that pisses me off. Sorry, strong language, but I'm daughter of a Navy veteran and have veterans throughout my family, and to bilk the government's one thing, but to bilk the Veterans Administration, especially for homeless veterans, that's just beyond the pale. So I was looking into that when I found out about this throuple. So as I'm looking through the text, I realized, because I got hundreds of screenshots of her texts with various people. She was drinking so much she was missing flights to and from the district. She was misusing prescription medication. She had different mental health issues that she had prescriptions for, but she wasn't using them properly and mixing them with lots of booze, which was never a good idea. She has a toxic workplace relationship. This woman that she had the throuple with, she groomed her. She was grooming before grooming was cool. The woman was 10 years younger.
Whoa.
And of course, Katie's like a superstar. Like, she was the new it girl for the Democrat Party. So this girl had a crush on her, and she groomed her into being this, other wife within the marriage. Then she gets to DC and dumps her husband and the throuple girl, and starts having sex with this Playboy reporter who she now has a baby by.
Wow.
Yeah, but you can't make this stuff up. I don't watch movies because what I've seen in life is crazier than what they could put in a movie. But then she was still the woman still worked for her. She was still saying, oh, will you put sunscreen on my neck when we're at this event? Like, that's sexual harassment. It's textbook sexual harassment.
Wow.
So these were the other stories that the press decided they were just gonna ignore, which was text revealed concern about Katie Hill drinking and missing flights. Katie Hill blamed story on abusive husband, but texts contradict her claims. Me Too concerns arise as Katie Hill's throuple partner describes toxic relationship with her boss. Katie Hill paid her alleged male lover, which is this guy up here, a campaign win bonus, stiffed her throuple partner. So if you ever work in campaign consulting, they usually will give a win bonus. If you win, you get $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. So the man got the win bonus, but her actual lover did not. This Graham guy has now said that he was not having an affair with her, But she still blackballed him. He hasn't been able to get a job, so the next summer, I'm on vacation having a good time on the Central Coast. A little intoxicated, looking at Twitter on the beach, and I'm like, wait, that tweet says, I just went to the gun show and I'm gonna find Jen Van Laar and blow her head off.
Oh my God.
boy.
That's a big threat.
Whoa, luckily I was not home and I was not where anyone could have found me, so I go to sleep and I wake up the next morning. Did I have a death threat last night? And I did. Had to call the police there, and the guy lives in North Carolina where the rest of my family lives. I go by my maiden name, which is great for my kids, but not so great for my brother that lives in that same town where that guy is, so I was afraid that he was gonna find them. You know, Van Laar's not a very common name. So, if you guys wanna know the dirt on what's happening now, she sued me, she lost, she owes me $85,000. She, thank you Harmeet Dillon, best attorney other than Kurt Schlichter, Then she promptly declared bankruptcy. However, her bankruptcy has been thrown out of court.
Wow.
Like, meaning she's not bankrupt anymore and we can go after her. So she tried to claim she was paying her mom $1,700 a month to live with her, but paying cash and there's no receipts.
Wow.
A little shady. So with the Katie Hill thing, oh, okay, we're gonna stay there. With Katie Hill, she, that was just one of the stories that I didn't think, I thought it was gonna maybe, you know, be hit piece fodder or attack me or fodder. Had no idea that it was gonna just, in 9 days, she was gonna resign. A little longer for this woman, Lorena Gonzalez Fletcher. If you're an independent contractor, you might have heard of her. She passed AB 5 to outlaw independent contracting in this state.
Oh my God.
They called her the Black Widow of public policy and the most powerful woman in Sacramento. So she passed this in 2019. A lot of people already didn't like her for some of the vaccine bills that she had shepherded through. She was the head of the Appropriations Committee and basically bankrolled by the Teamsters and all organized labor who wrote AB 5 for her. She didn't understand that when you piss off the creatives, that's really not a great thing to do, and you put them out of work, because then what they're gonna do is turn those creative juices on you. Or if you put reporters out of work. I almost lost my job because at Red State at the time I was an independent contractor. I had 10 days to decide if I was gonna become a corporation or move out of state or just lose my contract with them. So we all decided we did not like this woman and we were going to dig into her past. Well, first, she helped us out a lot because she has no filter. She's the most vulgar woman I have ever seen.
Yeah.
And she has no self-control. And so first, KUSI down in San Diego, they've done a great job holding people's feet to the fire. She goes on this interview and she calls, there's this total temper tantrum, calls people that are saying, like, we've had our contracts canceled with our people that we work with. All this. So she said, no, they're liars. Okay, that didn't work well. So then there was a musician that was working, because, you know, most musicians are not salary people. They do gigs. That's why it's called gig work. And a lot of them were Democrats that were just floored that she and Gavin Newsom wouldn't care about their plight. So this musician goes on Stossel to talk about the law, and she sends him back this email. Going on to right-wing TV is not the way to get urgency language when I'm trying to clarify a new bill for you. Well, that email got out and was in my story. Then Kevin Kiley, who a lot of us know and admire and love, he tried to vote to suspend enforcement of AB 5. She refused to even hear it. Then she was confronted by victims of her law. She was stumping for Elizabeth Warren down in San Diego. And people were confronting her about it, and she didn't grab her crotch like Roseanne, but she yelled, F Trump, at the whole thing. Kind of classless. But the thing a lot of people didn't realize is she's also was behind things like the motor voter law and ballot harvesting. So she's just like completely all around a terrible legislator. So we started getting all these things out. Then she tweets F Elon Musk, and he tweeted back. Anyone remember what he tweeted back?
Yes.
No, thank you. Message received. And then he probably took a lot of Tesla out of California.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
She used assembly resources to call different charter schools in San Diego and encourage them to go union. She made sure that 6 Democrats in swing districts would have max out contributions from all of her cronies so that they would vote for AB 5. Including my former Assemblywoman Christy Smith, who's about to lose for the 3rd time to Mike Garcia. Then, you know, when you lose Willie Brown and you're a Democrat, like, that's bad. Willie Brown got to the point, so he writes for, I think it's San Francisco Chronicle, writes a column. You could write up to, I think, 28 pieces under 85, just a random number that she picked out of the hat. So when Willie Brown gets to his 28th piece and the Chronicle says, sorry, can't do this anymore because of 85, he gets on the phone and calls Gavin Newsom, what the hell is this? And sure enough, then the Fix-It bill that Lorena had been working on was promptly signed by Gavin Newsom. So if you notice, Willie Brown, Elon Musk has been a friend of Gavin Newsom in the past. Lorena making all of these bad headlines. There were a couple of positions that came up at the end of 2020 that Gavin could appoint people to, right? US Senate, and then shortly after that, Attorney General, and then shortly after that, Secretary of State. Guess who wanted all of them and got none of them?
Lorena Gonzalez.
Lorena.
All right.
She already had a ton of money in a Secretary of State account. She was gonna run this election. And so she thought, for sure, everyone knows I'm running. Of course Gavin's gonna pick me. Nope, pick Shirley Webb. And we believe, all of us that have been working on this believe that it was because of all of the, it was like the flood, or the trickle turning into a flood of bad information about her, that we just made her so toxic that he could not appoint her to anything. Then we're still going in the middle of all of this.
Good.
Someone told me that she had purchased a vacation home in Arrowhead. I went on my secret little websites and found all of the information about that, including her mortgage, when it was done and everything. Well, then it turns out that she and her husband had quickly purchased and then quickly got rid of a bunch of stocks that became very profitable during the downturn, like CVS, what is it, Cisco, that does some of the video conferencing?
Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom, that kind of stuff. They cashed out enough right before they purchased this house to pretty much equate what the down payment was. But hey, she's just a poor Latina from City Heights, is what she'll tell you. So the point of that is that a lot of people think that when you do investigative journalism, you just go bada bada bing and then you've got the story. I've worked in politics in California for a decade now. I've met a lot of people. I've observed their relationships. I document everything. And sometimes what doesn't seem like a big deal at the time, like getting the information from that cabin a year later, 2 years later, can turn out to be something. So I think for investigative journalists who are gonna stay in this for a while, it's that determination to just document everything, to notice the little relationships, to notice what they're doing, notice what companies they're with a lot, because it all ends up coming back. And like I said, there's another reason too. Persistent investigative journalism sends a signal to politicians that they can't lie and engage in corruption with impunity because someone's watching.
Yes. Yes.
Even if it's not, I'm not getting people kicked out of office all the time. All the little things they just know, oh wait, Jen Van Laar might be watching. I guarantee you, and I'll get to it in a minute, Gavin Newsom pays his property taxes on time now because of me. So we do need to keep this spotlight on them, because people asked me at the time, because some of these Katie Hill pictures of them advertising for thruples were on, I think it was called Cruise Ship Mingle or Cruise Mingle, where they were going to go on a cruise to Mexico, and couples that are into this whole swinging or thruple or whatever weirdness you want to call it, they all can go register on there ahead of time and say what ship they're going on, what they're interested in. And someone said, how could she be so stupid to have this stuff out there? No one was watching. And the people who would watch are not going to publish it unless we have people like myself, and there's a lot more. There's CC Woods up in South Bay and Malibu area, and even in Marla Tejas has been doing great work at Fox and digging into more of that. So we're starting to see a little bit of a shift in LA. So back to another story. You might not know this one was mine. Like I've said, persistence is a great skill for journalists. Being able to be detailed and document everything. Being a bit of a sleuth and seeing how the pieces fit together. Curiosity is another thing, and when people ask me, how can you train other investigative journalists? The one thing I can't teach them is curiosity. That has to be something that you just are or you're not. So this is an aerial view of his house right now. $3.7 million home in Fair Oaks, California. I forget even what it was. A friend of mine had heard that he was moving somewhere and wanted me to check on stuff because I had access to all these real estate records that most of the public doesn't. I look up his property profile and start looking at the deeds and saw that it was first purchased by an LLC in December of 2018, and then that LLC transferred it to, and it looked like a cash sale at first, transferred it to Gavin and Jennifer Newsom like 9 months later, and I thought, that's really weird. And so I just started getting all of the documents from everywhere. And to this day, and I've got some forensic accountants and mortgage experts looking at it now to see what we can bring out before the election.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
We can't
excellent.
we can't find where this $3.7 million came from in the first place.
Surprised.
So he had a home in Marin County. It was mortgaged like 80 to 85% loan to value, if any of you are familiar with the real estate world. He wins election, and then his cousin is the only person named on this LLC that is formed at the end of November. They close like mid-December, and it's a $3.7 million cash transaction.
Wow.
So there should be paperwork, like someone had to capitalize that LLC. The title people would have had to source and season those funds, because you can't just put $3.7 million, no one knows where it came from, and purchase real property. And then he has it till October, and the LLC deeds it to him. Now remember, I've not found a piece of paper that has
Wow.
Gavin Newsom or Jennifer Newsom on this LLC.
Wow.
They say that they're not having to pay transfer tax of $4,000 because it's going from the LLC to one of the members. But none of his, which I now have his tax returns, which were the missing piece, nothing in the tax return shows the LLC either. So that's October of 2019. January of 2020, he gets a $2.7 million cash out refi on this house that he had just gotten free and clear 90 days before.
Oh my gosh.
Every mortgage broker I've talked to said, you usually need to have the title longer than 90 days to get a cash out refi, especially for 2.7.
Yes.
He's had various explanations. And then of course he didn't pay his property taxes. I don't know, the curiosity made me go look at that too. Normally if you either have your property taxes paid in your mortgage, or you pay, well if you get $2.7 million, wouldn't you think you'd pay the taxes? You wouldn't be Gavin Newsom if you thought that. So he actually didn't pay till they were about to be on the delinquent list with both Marin County and Sacramento County. This came up in the recall because I gave my attorney Harmony all of the information. And he said first that his cousin loaned him the money because they couldn't get a mortgage that fast. And then they paid him back when they could get a mortgage. Well, bro, you only got a $2.7 million mortgage. Where's the other million?
Yeah.
Is that a gift that you should be declaring on your income tax?
Yeah.
You know? Or even if it was a gift, the $3.7 million, that's a heck of a gift you're gonna need to declare on your income taxes, and you didn't.
Right.
Then he says that it was really his money, but they put it in the LLC, because his cousin Jeremy does all of his corporate stuff. They put it in that LLC for privacy reasons. Okay, well there's still documentation that would have been for that LLC. And why did you transfer it back into your actual name 9 months later if it's for privacy? Like, that doesn't make sense. So what I'm going at now is at a tax evasion angle, because this money, which should have been recorded somehow, and if he had explanations for it, then that explanation gets provided too. So I'll go through, that was just the first one. So then Cash Crunch, Gavin Newsom's 2020 property taxes are delinquent on both estates, because he still had both at that time. His property taxes were chronically delinquent for years, and I have all the screenshots in my stories. Then by Thanksgiving of 2020, no matter which estate Gavin Newsom chooses for Thanksgiving, perhaps he should pay property taxes. Because remember, that time during the lockdowns, he was telling all of us that we all needed to be on time with our stuff. We weren't getting any kind of stuff. So I'm gonna wrap up and then you guys can ask me questions, but we need you to all be involved. I could have 10 of me and still be behind on the number of tips and stories that I have. So there's a lot of work to be done. So if there's any of you that are into this kind of thing and maybe want to work in this field, let me know. If not, remember that all politics is local. It's like, I'm going to single out my great friend here that came, Lauren Harger. She's in Manhattan Beach, and she's been very instrumental in shining a light on their school board and the Loudon of the Pacific that they've become. Thank you, Lauren. So she's been sending us things at Red State. Pick a target and see what you can find. Seriously, so little investigative journalism has been done in California in decades that you can pick a target like even Ted Lieu, or even smaller than that, and just see what you can find on them. Or you could get involved accidentally, like I'm sure Lauren probably got involved accidentally just seeing what happened and talking with other parents. And then send good tips to trusted investigative journalists. And what I mean is, I get people say, well, you should look into so-and-so's finances. Okay, what part? Do you have any more detail? Because otherwise I'm just on a wild goose chase, and that's kind of a waste of my time. So if you have, some of you might work in areas where you might see something that you can document, like with the George Gascon recall, I had someone who actually worked in the office and saw the bad things that were happening in there that probably caused it to fail, and brought me recordings and pictures. I haven't been able to publish the recordings because they're afraid, since they recorded them illegally, that they could get in trouble. But when you hear people say, oh yeah, we know that's out of county, go ahead and put it in our thing anyway and leave the count the same. It's kind of infuriating to hear that on the audio. So bring those good tips to trusted investigative journalists. There's myself, like I said, there's CC Woods, Marla, Bill Malugin, I can get you in touch with him if it's something more national. But other than that, I'd like to hear what questions you guys have.
Other than Red State, where can you, when you find something out, even if it's Newsom hasn't paid his taxes or whatever?
Right.
The mainstream media is such a behemoth, and with their not cancel culture, but where
They're protecting everyone.
censorship. Yeah. How can you get the things that you discover out?
So what I found from the time being at Red State is when I have a story that I think can be big like that, I try to put my headline and my angle something that the public in general is going to be intrigued by. Like the Gavin Newsom thing went big because, oh, he got a gifted mansion, what the heck? Like nobody wants that, right?
I like the way you phrased that.
Thank you. And so then with Barbara Ferrer, I had been looking into her. I was one of the first ones that pointed out that she was just an activist disguised as a public health official.
Yes.
Thanks. So for 2 years, I've been looking at a lot for that woman, but then she hired her daughter in between the time I kind of first looked at it and then when it came back. But so when I put that out, I very purposely angled it that our mask mandates were based on a study that her daughter, who's not a doctor, worked on. And that, I think I published that at 1 o'clock that day, and quick funny story. This is a crazy life, being an investigative journalist. That day, I was not planning on writing that story. I woke up and then John Phillips from KABC had called me and said, I got something for you, if you can check it out, I got this tip. So my son was taking his driver's test that day for his license. I'm like sitting on my phone as he's taking it, getting it typed up and hit published. I was taking a red-eye flight that night to go to Tampa to speak at a Turning Point thing. So I was gonna leave my house at 3 p.m., hang out with a friend in Culver City till I went. Pulling out of my garage at 3 o'clock, Fox LA calls, can you come on the show tonight? At like 6 o'clock or something. And I was like looking at my suitcase, do I have something I can wear? You know? So I said, sure. Go to my friends in Culver City. Okay, sorry, we're not going to dinner, we're going to Fox. Then we can go to dinner. Go record that hit, go to dinner, and then by midnight I'm on a flight to Tampa and just completely dead tired. But you know, that brought out Mike Antonovich, former supervisor, wanting her to be fired. Then she completely lost her crap on the reporters that tried to hold her accountable the next day. It was a Wednesday when I published, and Thursday was her weekly briefing. And she was like, well, that has nothing to do with anything. We didn't have to disclose that. I never talked to my daughter about it. Your daughter lives with you. You need to tell me that over the last 6 to 9 months, never once did you talk about this topic. And like the fact that she was validating your measures.
Wow.
And saying that they worked, like, don't you think that that could make you keep your job?
Yeah.
So
A
she
lot
was
of
crazy.
things that you have found out and that we know, we didn't know they came from you, so.
Right.
Thank you for all those.
You're
ones
welcome.
that We haven't even given you credit for.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
You mentioned Mike Garcia a few minutes
Yes.
ago, just briefly. So, you pro Mike?
Of
or-
course, yeah.
Just checking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and he's my congressman right now. He
Oh,
won't
okay.
be because of redistricting. They put Simi Valley in with.
Oh,
Do you
wow.
don't think he's gonna win?
Oh, I
No,
think
no,
he's gonna
it's
win. I'm just redistricting
Oh,
out
he won't
of
be
his.
you.
Right.
Yeah, they cut her
I
out.
understand.
Unfortunately.
Lori Mills.
Yes. Well, Lori Mills is the assembly one, but Matt Jacobs.
Oh, yeah, is anybody doing any investigating into the bullet train? I read an article about that in the Daily Breeze today.
What
Keeps
about it?
popping up and
Yeah, there's
keeps
lots of
popping
things.
up. You know.
I mean, we know it's all pork. We know it'll
I
never
know
really
it's-
get
yeah,
built.
I know it's never gonna happen in less than 50 years, but is
Yeah.
anybody gonna do anything to make them, accountable to it and so to stop it?
If I could get the financials to it and I can trace the different companies that that benefit, I would definitely dig into that. I mean, I'm not the best at math, but for some reason I just love digging into people's financials and finding that kind of stuff.
Feinstein's husband was involved.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
What about Maxine Watson?
Oh, what about Maxine Waters? That's a loaded open question.
In more ways than one.
Yeah, I
She did all her
don't.
damage.
I think that honestly, and I hate to say it this way, there's so much going on in LA politics right now that she's kind of irrelevant, and she's gonna eventually just retire. Speaking of, there will be a lot more happening in LA politics with this whole city council recording thing.
Yeah.
No, well, the only thing that I have to do with it is that a bunch of us are trying to bring out the real issues behind it, which racism is terrible, but the fact that they're meeting at the LA Labor Fed offices to redistrict using a map that the union drew.
Wow.
Hello, and then talking about how they're going to divide up the economic assets of the county or the city so that they can all grift off of it. They don't want it for tax base for their, I mean, don't be silly. They want it so that they don't want places that are already on the good side economically. Like I was thinking one of the main Republican district is in the northwest San Fernando Valley, like Porter Ranch, West Hills, that kind of thing. It has very wealthy families, has great private schools, public schools, like the one where Kim Kardashian's kids go. Has great restaurants. That's a Republican district. Why don't they want any of that? Oh, it doesn't have ongoing factories to just kind of get those people to pay you kickbacks, right? Right. That's why that you'll always have that little bit of LA City coming down to the port because they're gonna want to get all kinds of kickbacks off of that all the time.
It seems like you've got a lot of fodder.
Uh-huh.
How do you go about, like California is so large and you have so many examples, how do you go about vetting the stories that you investigate?
For me right now, a lot of it is the easier, like the most, if I get pretty complete information from a source and there's not that much for me to do other than just vet that it's truthful, I can get on that pretty quickly. So I do it both by how much work is gonna be needed to go into it and what is the impact going to be on the election. So right now for the next 3 or 4 weeks, my 2 big things are trying to get what I can on that Newsom update done and out so that we can really try to hold his feet to the fire, get something on tax evasion for him. And then anything that can keep Karen Bass from being mayor, and anything that will re-elect, even though he's a Democrat, Sheriff Villanueva. That's my, if people come to me with other stories right now, I'm like, after the election, I have to focus on this. Lauren?
I'm wondering, whatever happened with that Chinese spy?
Which one?
Yeah, I mean,
Dong Jingwei?
that story broke.
Yes.
Broke that story, you hit it was like, it blew up, and it was like, damn, whatever happened to that guy? You know?
Well, there's still, gosh, which was it? So I still talk to my sources about that. It was funny when I saw Bongino at Mar-a-Lago, I didn't know he would recognize me, but like when he's like that far away, he goes, Jen Van Laar! He's like, he starts telling the CEO of my company, Salem Media, he's like, this girl, she broke the story on Dong Jingwei. Like, that was great, Jen, and you know what's going on?
Wow.
They're still debriefing. He brought terabytes of data with him. And what they do in the debriefing is they don't just go say, oh, we learned X, Y, Z. If it has to do with a CIA thing or if it has to do with NIH, they find ways to verify first and then bring things out. So when you see some updates on things like some of these Confucius Institute things or stuff like that, it could be from the stuff that Dong Jingwei is telling them, but it's not going to always come out as, oh, hey, Dong Jingwei told us this.
Yeah.
Because it can burn the other sources that they're using.
Yeah.
But there's also a high-ranking party official in one of our parties here in California that is a Chinese spy. And that's a story that I've had to sit on for a couple months because I have more important things to work on.
You mean not just a driver?
Ralphie?
I think you should investigate Ted Lu's wife connection to the big pharma. She was pushing all the mandates on the school. I think this woman should be ousted. I want you to.
Well, I've been looking into her campaign finance for a long time.
Yeah.
With Betty Lou, because Ted's been using his congressional email list to fundraise for her, and that I do not think that that's legal.
Yeah.
But of course, no one's done anything about it yet. So sometimes we have to just keep bringing these things up over and over.
We have a competitor against Al Marisucci right here. George Barks, please stand up, please.
Yes.
Otherwise, when he sits down, he can get through. Okay. Do you have any information on
Al?
Yeah.
I don't on Al, but you know what? There's a great interview of George up on Red State right now that my writer Dennis Santiago did.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so be sure to go see that and share it. He's also going to interview Christina Irwin, Lori Mills, other local, and even some Palos Verdes local candidates because Dennis lives in Torrance. So.
Al's a very slippery, snaky guy.
Anyway.
He's a very slippery.
Yes, Lydia?
guy.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to ask you, Scott brought up, when I was talking to him over the phone, he brought up the issue about our machines, our voting machines. And about that there was a worker that reported all the workers and sent it to China.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit?
So
that's
it's
the
poll
recent
chief.
issue.
Yeah, the
that's come
poll
up.
chief software. That's what LA County uses to assign their poll workers to various things. But what a lot of these counties use it for too is when you've got all the ballot boxes around the county and you know the election workers have to go pick them up and they have to document their chain of custody. This poll chief software is what does that. In my mind, it could very well have been whatever these mule places used to send their mules around with all of the ballots to drop off as well. Because we know they were using their location data on their phone when they did that. So this company Connect that owns that, it's a guy that was born in China, started the company. They said that they were keeping all of the data in the US. Now we know that it was kept on servers in China. And that they gave their employees in China super administrator privileges to every single county that used that. Up until last month.
That means no
Up
protection.
until, amazingly, George Gascon had this guy arrested and extradited to LA. There has to be something else beyond that because there's no reason that George Gascon would have done
Wow.
that.
Oh,
Wow.
because you get implicated in something.
But it was the day that that guy was arrested when they stopped giving those privileges to the people in China.
So right now, they're not having that super administrative privileges that we.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah, but Contra Costa County uses it, DeKalb County and Georgia, like counties in swing states throughout the country use this software.
Wow.
And they also make some, you know those little apps if you have kids in school? The apps that tell you announcements from the school or other things? They've also made a lot of those, so you could have their Chinese spyware on your phone and not even know it.
Wow.
Well, is that information, what you just shared about it being in other counties and things like that, and you said it's tied with China, what's the next step for the American citizen to do? So
Well,
that-
right now there's an FBI and LA County investigation into all of that, because True the Vote was going to have a live, not Facebook Live, but some kind of a live stream that night when the guy was arrested, and then they came out and said,
Cancel it.
we wanted to cancel it because we want to have the integrity of the investigation upheld. So really, I don't think there's anything we can do except be aware and go demand that our counties disconnect any and all software from these people immediately.
Hey, so I read your story about the whole Gascon recall, and you know it certainly set off a lot of alarms for me. And well, I talked to one of the volunteer coordinators. She's in Redondo Beach. Her name is Karen. I'll just say that much. So she has been checking the signatures that were stricken out or not counted. Now she has told me that they have discovered that if a person signed 3 times, the county threw out all 3 when they should have only thrown out 2. So right now, and there's a lawsuit going on now that's been filed. I know you know all about that. Why I'm bringing that to your attention though is how do you integrate this to, because my first impression from your investigative reporting was this was a total grift scam and it was useless, but I mean, I'm feeling a little more, positive because they are finding that the county did do a lot of things wrong too.
Right.
So how do you integrate that with what you reported? What do you say to that?
Well, I'm not going to say anything due to legal reasons.
Okay.
For a lot of things, but I did say in my original report that I do not trust Dean Logan on things, and that there can be a lot of. It doesn't mean that there is one reason for something. There can be 3 or 4 reasons.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to also add, she was telling me that they tried to check all of them and they weren't able to, because they were just on a fast pace when they turned everything in July. However, I really appreciate you calling out the grift problem in this state. And this is a clear example because the Tehachapi was on the list, and it's just outrageous. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, with you and just a handful of other investigative reporters who are finding out the truth and knowing the truth and being able to report the truth, the mainstream media, like the LA Times, even our local Daily Breeze, there's all kinds of derogatory names I could think of.
Right.
But they're not, sometimes they pick up your story, and most of the times they ignore it or make it on page 50 in the back.
Right.
And this is, do you think that will ever change?
It'll change when it has to, because right now their people are not demanding that it change. So the more people are informed, and the more that maybe they have some competitor newspapers or competitor sources that are getting ratings or whatever, then they'll have to cover it. Would the truth benefit by groups like ourselves protesting in front of the El Segundo Times, actually? I doubt it, honestly. It would be better used to try, as far as to get more people in office and stuff, to go out and go knock on doors.
Okay.
But other than that, to amplify the true stories.
Right.
Because they feed on people calling them liars or whatever. They like that.
Oh, they do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do you ever do anything with the Epic Times?
I do not, just because I'm under sole contract with Salem Media.
Oh, okay.
By the way, let me emphasize, if you have not read Red State Magazine articles, they're a quick read and a somewhat in-depth in some places. I subscribed to them when I said, well, okay, what does Red State Magazine, when I heard about her, and I immediately went on, I subscribed to them. It's only $48 for the whole year,
Yeah, for the VIP. Yeah, and our VIP stuff normally has a lot more detail.
for
in that.
only for the whole year, and I find it great information. So
Thank you.
I urge you to sign on to redstatemag.com and subscribe.
Yeah, does that include townhall.com?
For the VIP Gold, it gets you VIP access to all of the town hall sites, so town hall media, PJ, Twitchy, Bearing Arms, Hot Air, and us.
I was gonna ask you about the recent event about the council, LA Council. Will you be doing any investigative reporter on our city councils?
In LA?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So first question, I'll be really quick. This one is, what is the difference? How do you distinguish Town Hall from Red State? I'm kind of curious
We're
about
just two
that.
different websites, but we're both under Town Hall Media. That's our umbrella.
Okay, fair enough. And I remember a story from Breitbart. There was like a huge changeover in leadership and membership about that. It was like anti-Trump and then it became pro-Trump. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What can you tell us about that? I'm just curious. I mean, it was a good change. Don't get me wrong, but
There were two different times that people left, some willingly and some unwillingly.
Okay.
They happened to be the people that were mostly the Never Trump. That's really all.
so they just left on their own, or
There were some of them that did.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So, but that's like 3-4 years ago. We try to
I'm just kind of
go
interested in that.
past
I thought that was kind of interesting.
it. Thank you so much.
Yay!
Yeah, thank you.